want dis ons land, dis ons taal, en sonder soek aan ons gaan stories waar we lewe in die duine hoog gebou uit sand, die helder see en die goue straat, die landskap wat oor generasies vertel, die harte wat in ritme met die golwe val, ons land, ons taal.
Dag se daar en welkom by nog 'n uitsending van Kletskompas. Vandag is Woensdag, die 18de Januarie 2023. My naam is Augetto Graig en vandag sal ons oor verskeie nuus gesels, ek en Henriette Lamprecht net hierna. En in ons onderhoud praat Tanja Bause met Liz Komen oor die bedreigde voëls hier in Namibib en verskeie diere en die waninligting wat hierdie kwesbare erfenis nog meer in gevaar stel. Bly by ons.
The Evening Review is a daily interview-based talk show that dissects and expounds on current affairs as they occur in Namibia. The show aims at reaching Namibians of all age groups who seek better understanding of the state of current affairs in the country. This show is broadcasted on NTV, oneup2.com, and cross-shared on the following Facebook platforms: Namibian Sun and Namibia Media Holdings. The Evening Review focuses on interviews, latest news, and up-to-the-minute current events. Contact Evening at synergy.com.na. Evening Review, unpacking today's pertinent issues.
Welkom Henriette hier in die ateljee.
Hallo Augetto, ek kuier altyd lekker saam met jou in die stoel.
Dankie. Kom ons spring gou daarin op die voorblad van Republikein. Die Augetto skole wat 800 studente of leerlinge huis toe stuur.
Ja, hulle is nou al hulle gaan vir 2 weke huis toe. Augetto, dis natuurlik van die vloedwaters wat nou in die noorde is, toe Yemo Haidula en Enzo Amohele van ons susterskoerante wat daar is. Daar's ook video's op ons Facebookblad.
Ja.
Ons hou dit heeltyd dop, die situasie kan natuurlik verander. So dis nie 'n goeie ding, die skool het nou begin en nou is dit alweer toe.
Ai.
Maar ons hou julle op hoogte.
En dan die ander storie wat jy geskryf het is geen riool in hospitaal, sê ministerie.
Ja, die ministerie sê dit en dan sê die PDM dit. En dit is na aanleiding van 'n verslag wat die Dipo Amata van die PDM opgestel het. Hy het Engela gaan besoek. Praat van daar's nie kragopwekker nie, riool wat die hele hospitaal vol lê, en die uitvoerende direkteur van die ministerie Ben Ngombe wat nou sê dit was nog nooit dat dokters selfone moet gebruik om operasies te doen nie. Hy weer lê basies al hierdie feite en hierdie aannames van Amata en hy sê dit word ondersoek.
Oh,
so hou die koerant dop.
Ja, beslis. Ek het ook daar geskryf van die korrektiewe dienste. Hulle is toetse vir die wat aansoek gedoen het vir 200 poste. Dis amper 16,000 mense begin nou vandag. Ja. So tot dusver lyk dit loop vlot, maar ons hou julle op hoogte daaroor. En daar is nog baie meer nuus in die koerant. Dis nou net bladsy 1 wat ons bespreek het, maar ons het 'n lekker lang onderhoud vir julle in vandag se program, so bly by ons.
Om in die natuur te wees is 'n belangrike bondgenoot in die strewe na sielkundige welstand. Mense wat groot word omring deur groen gebiede, het tot 55% laer risiko om geestesgesondheidsprobleme as volwassenes te ontwikkel. Nuwe navorsing dui nou daarop dat mense wat toegang tot 'n private tuin het en aktief daarvan gebruik maak, beter gesondheid en welstand het as diegene sonder 'n tuin. Bevindinge dui ook daarop dat hoewel toegang tot 'n buiteligruimte soos 'n tuin of erf belangrik is, die gebruik van daardie spasie werklik tot voordele vir gesondheid en welstand lei. Interessant genoeg het die tipe tuin waartoe mense toegang gehad het, 'n beduidende rol gespeel in die gesondheids- en welstandsvoordele wat hulle uit hul tuingebruik verkry het. Toegang tot 'n privaat buiteligruimte het gesondheid en welstand meer verbeter as om toegang tot 'n gemeenskaplike ruimte te hê. Die studie maak dit baie duidelik dat tuine 'n deurslaggewende manier is vir mense om toegang tot die natuurlike omgewing te verkry, te ervaar en voordele daaruit te put.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toyvon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Ons is vandag hierso saam met Liz Komen van Narek. Sy het nie verdere bekendstelling nodig. Goeiemôre Liz.
Good morning, Tanya, and thank you so much for having me here this morning.
It's our pleasure. We're here to talk a little bit about the environment, animals, endangered animals, animals on a red list and all that, and also animals that don't belong here.
That's right, yes. In fact, it's more than animals, because you can't really talk about animals if you don't talk about plants. And it should go beyond that. You need to talk about soil and so on. But we're going to stop and just take our biodiversity, which is plants, birds, mammals, reptiles, fish, and so on. That is what we need to discuss in terms of endangered species, endemic species, and alien species, as well as invasive species, which may be alien or may be naturalized, nor our species, but could become invasive. So that is the idea.
And you've got a list of how plants and then also all the animals are categorized into endangered or not endangered,
That's
endemic.
Right. So the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, it started in 1964. So I guess many of your listeners and readers will think, whoa, that's a long time back. And yet we actually haven't covered everything yet. So they have 9 categories, and it starts with we don't know, so no data available. And from that is to the next category, which is data deficient. So we've looked at it, but we don't know. Then there's least concern. We've looked at it and we're not worried. Then there's the threatened group. Then from the threats, they become vulnerable. From the vulnerable, they become endangered. From the endangered, they become extinct in the wild. And then there's a category which is simply extinct. They're gone. And from that IUCN group, which is not just listing, it also gives, in the IUCN websites and documents, it gives information. You know, where are they? What are the localities, the geographical areas? What are the threats? You know, and where the species is being pushed. So that's super interesting and something that we can use nationally to create our own red data lists and data and categories for our species.
How do somebody that is interested in getting involved, which we all should be, what can they do? Where can they go into and look more into this, read up on it, get informed, and then also respond?
Okay, that's a super useful question, that, because I think that is so important. We have scientists and they do science. We have nature conservators, either in government or in non-government organizations, and they do science and they do data collection and so on. But the most that we have is the public, just people. And people actually have their eyes open, and what they need is knowledge. Okay, so now you get knowledge, what do you do with it? Is, well, we have, through the Environmental Information Services, EIS Namibia, apps that are available to download on your cell phone, and they're pretty easy to use once you've used them, for reptiles, for plants, for fish, for birds, for mammals, where you can, where did we see them, or what did we see that we think is incorrect, so there are places people can then report. But to get that knowledge, there's some super books that are available. The latest one is this conservation status of all the terrestrial carnivores. So that doesn't include the area that I really work in, which is birds. But many years ago, there was a bird list for endemic species. An endemic species is one that we have special responsibility for.
Just explain what is an endemic species and how many do we have?
Okay, so, wow. We have in Namibia for the endemics, that I don't lie to you, I'm going to have a look at a paper. We have about 16 birds that are not purely endemic, they may be near endemics, 65 reptiles, 15 mammals, 14 scorpions, 5 amphibians, and 5 freshwater fish.
And endemic means that it belongs to Namibia. It is here or just across the border, but
so everybody, science uses the word endemic to cover a range from around 70% of your population is nationally here, is in your country, to 100%. I think birds, we only have one, the June lark, which is a little brown bird. Go down to Namibib, Cliff Park, you probably see him there if you have a good look. But we might have a species that is shared with Angola, or shared with northern South Africa, or shared across with Botswana. So that would be, we've got 70% of the population, but that's enough to create a huge responsibility. So we can call it a near endemic.
Yeah, and it is ours. We just give them a few. So we
There
should
you go.
especially look after
Yes.
after our endemics then.
Yes, yes. What actually creates problems, not just for our endemics, but for our biodiversity, is 5 major issues. And we can start with just land changes or sea changes. What's going on? Okay, humans are pushing. We're a very invasive species.
Yes.
And we do stuff, you know, whether we're farming or mining or whatever. We create, sometimes we think we're doing great things like game farms, and we put fences around. We are blocking movement. So we're changing things all the time. That is one big one. The second one that is very big in the news at the moment is climate change. Yeah. And that's been really pushed, but that is going to cause a lot of issues. A third one, which I think we should talk about, is alien species. What should not be here? Now, in the plant world, there's a lot of alien there. I think there are 38 trees that are alien that have been introduced into Namibia, and then a range of others, but there are, we used to say the nasty 9, there were 9, but now we have 15 species that are invasive in plants in Namibia. And there are 2 super books that you can look at. One is this Tree Atlas of Namibia, and the other one is Trees and Shrubs of Namibia. So giving super great information and really asking the public to not purchase or to report in Windhoek. I live in Windhoek. We have this little cactus, the jointed cactus, the opuntias, even the prickly pears. They've gone feral. They're just everywhere. Yeah. So that's plants. In birds, we have 7 species. They're not all really invasive, but we have some that we know have been pushing in to Namibia. One is the common myna. Unfortunately, as well, for some of the bird species, people will take them, buy them, and keep them in cages, and then one day let them go. So the common myna, the European or common starling, that's another one. Super invasive species. I think those are probably our most invasive aliens, and they're pushing both from the east and from the south, coming up. Following the roads, following the human habitation, and in they come. Reptiles, we have a terrapin that's really invasive. We have a crayfish that is invasive and dangerous. What are the dangers of these species? Well, there are 2 things. One, they could interbreed with our own animals. They can bring in pathogens. And this big thing is that they are animals, these invasive species, animals or plants, that are so strong that they can push ours right out of our natural habitats and replace them.
And they're also not suited for the country, like the eucalyptus tree. It doesn't belong here. It takes too much water from our, our species. And
right.
It's the factor of, like what you said, they push ours out, or the aliens take over.
Take our indigenous spaces.
Over, yeah,
absolutely.
Completely.
So with plants, going back, quite far back, so the then Department of Agriculture Ministry, and thinking that Namibia was seen as a 5th province of South Africa, they would happily bring stuff in and allow it, thinking, oh, this is good for agriculture, it grows quickly, it does well, whatever, and then later find there's a real problem. Nowadays, to bring in foreign plants, this was mostly in plants. To bring in foreign plants, we actually have to go through environmental clearance certificates, and there are acts that control. So it's much better. Mammals we didn't talk about, but mammals are a problem. And in fact, in your newspaper, I saw a little hedgehog, which was a sort of blonde color, We call them the champagne hedgehogs. They are bred in captivity to make them different pretty colors. They do not belong in Namibia. They come most likely directly from with somebody from South Africa, because South Africa, unfortunately, has a very different and open pet trade with wildlife. We do not. And it's almost begging the public, do not do this. Firstly, hedgehogs, really, it's a little nocturnal animal. I know they look cute. I know any animal can become humanized or habituated.
Yes.
It is not a domestic species. And then people do this thing in captive breeding, make him a different color so that I can sell him, and then so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So we definitely have a problem with marmosets, these little primates, with hedgehogs. In the reptile world, we have a problem with the bearded dragon. And it's just a matter of saying to people, really, there are dogs, there are cats. Can we stop it?
Yeah.
We are creating problems that the world won't be able to solve in the end.
And I think it's also not fair to the animal, because now it's cute, but it's going to get big, and then we just chuck it out in the wild.
That's
to
right.
fend for itself.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
humans are very selfish.
That's right. And two problems there, disease,
Yeah.
interbreeding, three problems, disease, interbreeding, and actually pushing our species right out because this thing is strong. So hedgehogs has definitely in the last few years become a major issue. Bearded dragons have been in there for some time. And then of course we have our own species that are not endangered. They're least concern that people just take into in as pets. They get released, groups get set up, compete with other groups. Tortoises, that's a bad one. People love to pick up or think they'd like to keep one. I do hope that many people realize that keeping tortoises and breeding in captivity is absolutely illegal. If you want to breed a wild animal in captivity, you need to have a breeding permit. Otherwise, don't.
Yes.
For example, NARIC has a permit to do the work that I do, rehabilitation, release, everything is identified with a ring, etc., etc. But I do not breed. I will not allow that, because especially in Namibia, we don't need that. So,
Liz, thank you so much for your time. I hope, can you maybe give us the website again where people can just go and have a look and inform themselves?
yes, this is a super huge site. It does citizen science and it's got some specialized groups on it. EIS/Namibia, Environmental Information Services. It can also be found under the website of the Namibia Chamber of the Environment, NCE.
Daar het julle dit. Asseblief gaan kyk op die webwerf, lig jouself in, kry inligting, laai die toep af en kom ons raak almal bietjie betrokke in ons diere en ons plante en ons land en die hele omgewing in geheel. Baie dankie.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tanja.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nou ja, toe. Dit was Liz Komen van NARIC in gesprek met ons eie Tanja Bause en was dit nie 'n lekker insiggewende gesprek nie. Met dit kom ons tot die einde van hierdie uitsending van Kletskompas, maar onthou op die 8de Februarie vier ons saam NTV se eerste verjaarsdag en neem asseblief ook deel aan die betrokke kompetisie wat reeds van stapel gestuur is en tans voortduur. Ek wens julle 'n lekker week vorentoe en 'n rustige naweek wat kom en sluit weer môre by ons aan. Totsiens.